Welcome to the Walking Dead UK podcast. It's Entertainment Talks podcast for Fear the Walking Dead on AMC. I'm your host Matthew, and this is for season 6, episode 6. Bury her next to Jasper's body. It's another episode I don't like, and you know why I don't like it if you've been listening for the last 5 weeks. It's another single focus episode. It's another episode that is missing multiple cast members or characters, or cast members as characters. I do think the content of this episode is better than recent weeks. I think this episode's got some fairly decent action. I think that this episode, Virginia loses her hand. That was kind of interesting. There's some things that I just simply don't get from this episode, namely the start and the end of the episode. Didn't connect with me at all. It's just getting a bit ridiculous, this whole... not having characters pop up for certain episodes. We haven't had Alicia in 3 episodes of this show. Alicia is she the only Clark left? I think she is, because mum's dead, brother's dead, her dad's dead, her other brother's dead. Don't think there's any Clarks left. Let me just picture this to those of you that have, just the whole audience, really. Let's say we had an episode of The Walking Dead, right? And let's say that we're in the era where I'm gonna spoil The Walking Dead, the main show, but from the previous seasons. Let's say you have an episode, right, where Cole's not in it anymore, Judith hasn't grown up and had time skip, and you've basically only got Rick as the Grimes character. So I'm trying to compare a situation as to where, like, okay, Alicia's the only Clark. Let's say that, sure, Judith is still there, Carl is gone, but you've got Rick as the only Grimes character that's like going to be present on screen, because Judith was in on the screen and stuff when she was the younger version of that character, but she was more just kind of there, sort of thing. Can you imagine if like Rick Grimes isn't in 3 episodes of The Walking Dead at that point? Or even if you take one of the main 4 Walking Dead characters, so Rick, Carl, Michonne and Daryl. I know 2 of them have left, Rick and Michonne. Can you imagine if like Daryl's not in 3 episodes of The Walking Dead? It's just ridiculous. And I mean, like, Morgan's been in and out of different episodes, and I finished watching the episode, and I didn't like the end of the episode. I didn't like the start of the episode. I'll talk about that in a second. But I was sitting there actually working out, like, okay, who's in what groups and where actually like is everybody? Because there's 2 characters that pop up in this episode. 3 characters that pop up in this episode. Actually, no, 4 characters in this episode that pop up that we haven't seen for ages. You've got Luciana, where's she been for 5 episodes? You've got Sarah, who is the woman with the hat at the start of the episode with June. Where has she been for several episodes? Actually, I'm missing 5 characters because I don't know where Grace has been either. Grace was the one that became friends with Morgan, and she was going to die from something, but she's fine. I'm pretty sure that she survived. You've got Wes, who, for those that are trying to visualize these characters, he kind of looks a bit like Heath. The less said about Heath at the moment, the better. Charlie as well hasn't been in multiple episodes. You've got Wes, who hasn't been in multiple episodes. You've got Wendell, who hasn't been in multiple episodes. He's the guy in the wheelchair who is friends with... Who did I just mention just then? Sarah. We met them together. I think it was last season at some point. He had a shotgun tied to his wheelchair. It was kind of cool. You're not... What are you doing? Like with this show, I've just named like 5 or 6 different characters that haven't been in the show for a long time. Granted, they're not all as big as Alicia. Alicia's a huge character, and I'm just trying to look at the situation in terms of who hasn't been in the episodes for however long. But it just really baffles me when you get to because I've been sort of counting different characters and which episodes they haven't popped up in, and I understand you're gonna maybe go 1, maybe 2 episodes without seeing a character, but 3 episodes for main characters is just it's pretty ridiculous. It's just it's not working. It's just really not working, and I do want to kind of apologize for bringing this problem up every week, but it continues to be a problem in this show, and as somebody who's here to talk about the show and what I think they're doing right and wrong, it is something that they are continuously doing wrong, so I'm going to bring it up as long as it goes on. what's the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, the start and the end, at the end of the episode. So I don't get the start of this episode. I know what was happening, obviously. You got Sarah and you got June. They're trying to rescue this guy whose name I've already forgotten. I don't think that we've seen him before. June is trying to go completely and utterly overboard. We're saving this guy's life, who we don't know about. Now, I get that you might be trying to work it out as to where... okay, we have to look at what June is going through. But the whole reason that June is going through this thing is apparently because this guy's important to her, or important for, like, because she's a doctor and she's failed him. It didn't work for me at all. And then you got the end of the episode, and literally as I know I'm kind of jumping from the start to the end, but I'm just pointing out two bookend story problems: the start and the end of the episode. You got the end of the episode, right, where John's saying to June about, like, oh, I'm going to go off and do this other thing, you go and do this thing, and he's like, oh, I'll be right behind you, and you see the bird's eye view of the truck and the car. And I think, like, okay, please just have these characters drive off into the same place so that in the next episode, which is the mid-season finale, by the way, next week, so that they can just be in the same story next week. Nope. John has to drive off, so he's on his own now as well. So you get the characters even more split up in this episode than what they already were. Granted, there's a few more that have been added to the group. You know, Wendell and Sarah was there, and Luciana is with the group now as well. But it really, I don't understand it. You're 6 seasons into the show, and you decide that this is the story method that you wanna take. Fair enough if you did this for like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and then you moved into a main story. That would work. I'm really, like, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep doing the podcast and definitely keep watching the show, because I'm almost, I think I mentioned this last week, I'm at just such a point where I'm so curious to see if, okay, eventually you have to put this story together. You have to put these characters together, even if it's by the end of the season in 10 episodes time, because I believe we have 16 episodes for this season and we've had 6. It's to me about the curiosity of how are you going to fit this story back together, which just it'll be very, very interesting. But yeah, John has decided to drive off from June, even after, like, you know, the whole big reunion thing. Was it last week's episode? Maybe the one before that, I think. No, it was the one before that, because last week we had Althea, Morgan and Dwight, because we had the whole masked group thing that was going on. But yeah, it's funny as well, because I was sort of thinking, because I haven't really looked at a lot of sort of reviews or opinions on this season, and I started to look online in some different Facebook groups and looked at people's thoughts on the recent episodes, and I just put a comment in there and just said, like, okay, I think that this is, like, really damaging the show. The story's not working. You're splitting up the characters. You've done this 6 seasons in when it's supposed to be an ensemble show. A few people actually agreed with me, and they actually said, like, yeah, I agree with you that it isn't serving the story. Because I kind of just wondered, you know, am I on my own with this whole opinion? Do I just have an outside sort of opinion on the situation, but not according to what people were kind of replying to me with, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm glad I got, like, you know, a perspective kind of cleared up on that, and I'm not alone on my thoughts on the situation. But it's just like it was even just interesting just then when I was scrolling through the episode cast list and the amount of characters that haven't been in the show so far. So it's very, very annoying. And yeah, so anyway, I need to calm down a little bit, so let's take a quick break, and we'll talk about the actual contents of the episode as well, because I've talked about certain things, but let's talk about some other things involved in the actual episode in a minute.
Hey there, I'm Aaron Holman, host of Eye to Eye, a weekly podcast talk show all about passion.
I have this passion and this fire within me that burns brighter than the fire around me.
Flow.
With performing, there's always a story to tell, whether it's my own or not.
And creativity.
I go, he's more than cute, he's creative.
All with an LGBT twist. Make sure to check out Eye to Eye, that's EYE, number 2, letter I. And rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in today.
I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are Killer Fun. We explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week.
For as long as people have been communicating, they have been talking about who did what to whom, and is that socially acceptable?
Because the boundaries of society,
crime,
and entertainment have always gone hand in hand.
The more salacious,
or weird,
the better. From books and movies
to television shows and games,
we look at how life and art imitate and inform one another.
And we can't get together and not laugh. So let's face it, there's going to be laughing.
Killer Fun is available anywhere you listen to podcasts, so join us.
If you'd like to get started with a domain name and a website today, just click on the link in the show notes and that will take you over to Koalu to get started. They also have a live support chat system that you can use, which is in the bottom right hand corner. So get started with a new website and domain name today with Koalu. Hey everybody, if you would like to get the ad-free versions of all of our podcasts and support Entertainment Talk along the way, all you need to do is head over to patreon.com/entertainment talk. Sign up either as a creator or as a Patreon. There's no difference there. That's just the option for either becoming a creator now or just staying as a patron for the moment. And then all you need to do is support us at the $1 level tier. That will get you access to all of the ad-free podcasts that we've done in the past, and get you access to all the ad-free podcasts in that month as well. So it's a great way to support us on Entertainment Talk and to get rid of the ads and get your ad-free podcasts. You can also become a patron at the $3 level tier. That gets you access to ad-free podcasts and allows you to redeem a review of a TV show or a film of entirely your choice. That's one per month for either a TV show or a film review, which is at the $3 level tier. As always, thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. Alright, recently on Entertainment Talk, we've got the latest Let's Play Sundays episode. This is for the popular Fall Guys. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. It's a free-to-play game available on various different... Actually, I think it's just available on PS4 at the moment, but have a look on the consoles and see if it's available on there. But it's at least available on PS4, so you can check out Fall Guys if you want to. That's the solo video that I did, so have a look out for those. Star Trek Discovery is still continuing. Season 3 episode 5 is the latest episode, and that will keep continuing on Fridays. Me and David finally did the Breaking Bad podcast, the season 1 feedback. We had let your feedback gather up throughout the season because the podcast was scheduled, and then we just came back and did one big sort of feedback podcast for the whole of season 1. So there's that. If you've not seen Breaking Bad, obviously highly recommend it. It's available on Netflix in the UK and on AMC in the US. The whole package is available on Netflix in the UK. El Camino, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, all of that is available. Walking Dead World Beyond, our latest podcast is for season 1 episode 6. We'll be doing the episode 7 podcast on Wednesdays, so have a look out for that. Gaming Talk this week, we talked about the Avengers losing some money. Not the MCU Avengers, the Avengers game, of course, developed by Square Enix, published by the other way around, developed by Crystal Dynamics, published by Square Enix. We talked about that and the dwindling player base and that sort of thing. Mass Effect is finally getting remastered. The popular BioWare franchise, of course, published by EA, developed by BioWare. That's getting remastered next year, so that's really, really good. And we also talked about some very big additions to Game Pass. Fear the Walking Dead for last week. Don't Skip Review for Enola Holmes. That's the Netflix film about Sherlock Holmes' sister, called Enola Holmes, played by Millie Bobby Brown, and in that film Sherlock Holmes is played by Henry Cavill, so that was pretty good. International break at the moment, but the last United Cast episode was for Manchester United beating Everton 3-1 away from home. And that's pretty much everything we've been doing on entertainmenttalk.org and on podcast platforms. So I've been very negative in the first 10-13 minutes or so with the podcast, and it's just because of the way that the show is and how I feel. I want to move on to a couple of positives for the podcast. Yeah, bit of a surprise. I thought the action was alright in this episode. There was some short and interesting zombie set pieces. June sort of trying to get away from the van, and Virginia was there. And then there was the explosion, which was pretty cool. And then obviously she had to amputate Virginia's hand, which was kind of interesting and a big moment. That's going to be a big change for the character as well, so that should be interesting going forward. John and June just didn't really get where they were sort of going in this episode with that, and them sort of splitting up, and I've already talked about the problems there. Luciana is back finally after at least 5 episodes, if not more, because she hasn't been in this season yet. So she turned up. That was good. I am happy that certain characters turned up again in this show. As I said, Luciana. You've got Sarah came back. You have Wes, who is sort of interesting. He came back. The annoying thing about the Wesley storyline as well, I know I've immediately switched from positive to negative, but Wes had this very tied-in story with Alicia, and the whole painting the walls, because it was to do with Alicia's mother, who's now dead and everything. It would have just been a bit more interesting, and certainly much better, if Alicia was with Wes in this episode, because Alicia's just not in this episode, so yeah. But yeah, that's one of the big main reasons he even was in the show in the first place, is because he tied in his story with Alicia, and she's not in this episode for his kind of return, so that was a bit annoying. Daniel's not in this episode. Wendell, I do quite like Wendell. He was in this episode for about 10 seconds, so that was interesting. Paige is credited for the episode. I think that's the woman that shot herself at the start. Didn't really get that either. No, that was the cold open, wasn't it? So yeah, the actual start of the episode was the June and Sarah thing, but yeah, didn't really care for the whole Paige thing and whatever that was. Yeah, I don't know. I do find the angle interesting that, okay, someone's been painting the beginning as the end, or the end as the beginning, or whatever, which was the title for the season premiere. And the villain of the show is trying to figure out who is messing with her, and she's also pulling along the hero characters to try to get them to help her solve the situation. I actually found that quite interesting as well. But yeah, so yeah, the actual contents of this episode was interesting. It was an interesting build up, because they got a few more things that you can maybe do. Because as I'd kind of said throughout the season, I suppose, when they've gotten to the main threads of this story involving Virginia and a few other different things, at certain points, not all the time, but at certain points it has been quite interesting. But it's just, yeah, you've just split all these characters way too much. So going back to what I said at the start of the podcast, me trying to work out the different groups. So Morgan, he's kind of been floating around. He was with Althea and Dwight and Sherry the last time we saw him, so that's one group. I'm going to count Morgan with them, because that's the last time that we saw him. I know he's been kind of wandering off on his own or whatever. You've got Alicia. She was not with Strand. Strand was moved to John and June's group, although John has now left, so he's on his own. So you got, right, Morgan with the other characters I just mentioned. You've got John, who's on his own. You've then got Strand, who is, I guess he's with the other characters, because they're actually driving off somewhere now, and Victor is still at that camp, as far as we know. Then you've got Alicia is with, what's his name, Victor? No, not Victor. Oh, what's his name? Daniel Salazar, yeah. She's with him, so that's one little group. And then you've got June, who's with Sarah and Wendell and some of the other characters. Yeah, those new ones that came into... Well, not new ones, those characters that returned in this group. I'm pretty sure that Luciana is in that group as well. I've already lost track, but that's about 4 different groups. There's about 4 or 5 different groups of characters, some of which are completely on their own, and some of which aren't. But then there's characters like Victor. I'm not completely sure where he is. Morgan, I'm not completely sure where he is. So, I don't know. But like I said, it was good to see the characters back in this episode. You've just got to fix this whole individual storytelling thing, because it's getting on my nerves a little bit. So, yeah. But curiosity for next week's episode, certainly. I don't know what they're going to do for next week's episode, because literally John's just gone off on his own. See, if next week's episode is focused on John, you cannot just focus it on John, because you have other parts of the story that are very vital to be told. And how are you going to do that if you just focus on John? So if they're going to pick a particular group to focus on next week, because that's what they've been doing this whole season, you've kind of got to go with... Well, I guess you've got to go with... Well, you have to show Alicia next week, otherwise that's 4 episodes that she's been out for. Morgan's probably going to be in next week's episode, and then you've got... I guess you go with June's group. She's got the biggest one at the moment, isn't she? June, Sarah, Wendell, Luciana. That's the group with the most characters, and obviously Virginia, the villain, is there as well. So I don't know. They're gonna have to figure something out. Either they keep doing that, or they simply just put these characters together and tell a story with an ensemble cast. So yeah, we'll see. I do wonder, okay, because next week you've got the chance to potentially put not every single character together, but condense like 4 groups into 2 at least. Plus you've got characters on their own and whatever else. Either next week they're gonna get rid of that and condense it down to 2, maybe 3 groups. Maybe get 1 little group and then 2 bigger groups of characters. Or they really are going to go for the full 16 episodes and keep doing this for 10 more episodes. Because it's going to be interesting because you've got 7 episodes and then 9 instead of 8 and 8, because that's usually what they go for. When they got 16, they usually go for 8 and 8. But now they're going with 7 and 9. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a story reason for that or something. We shall see, I suppose. But I want your thoughts as well. What did you think of this week's episode of Fear the Walking Dead? Do you agree with me and apparently a few other people as well? Some people have said that they've just really, really, really enjoyed this season. And, fair enough. If you have, I'm quite happy for you, to be honest, if you've really enjoyed this season, because I really haven't. I do honestly think that this is beginning to be one of the... It's in the top 3 already for the worst seasons of The Walking Dead, just as a whole, because you've got seasons 7 and 8. Those are 2 of the worst seasons. Season 7 and 8, the main show. World Beyond's only had 7 episodes, but I've loved most of what they've done there. And then, yeah, all the other seasons of Fear have been better than this so far. It's just a really big shame to me, because I do just think you've got actually a fairly interesting little story idea here. You've got an interesting villain, you've got characters I care about. If you just put them together and then tell this story, I promise it will be so much better. But, like I said, if you've been enjoying the season, I'm very happy for you that you've actually enjoyed it, because I haven't. So, yeah. I just want to make it clear as well, I very, very much obviously dislike what Ian Goldberg's done with this season, and I've been annoyed with him at that decision. I don't think it's worked out very well. I don't have any personal hate for the guy or anything. I'm sure he's a very nice person. I'm just don't think he's very good at the job that he's doing. So, yeah, just want to make that kind of clear as well. So, but yeah, let me know your thoughts, feelings, questions, comments, concerns about anything related to The Walking Dead, or anything related to Entertainment Talk. methodentertainmenttalk.org, Twitter, eTalkUK. There's contact page and information in your show notes. It's funny sometimes, because I thought I was going to come on here and do like a massive, massive rant, and I mean a massive rant, because I was just very frustrated after this episode. But sometimes I go to sit down and record, I literally hit the record button and my whole body just calms down. So, I don't know, maybe I'm not capable of like a full-on massive rant. I think the most ranty I've ever quite gotten is probably my Titan Season 2 review. If you're curious to check that out, something which I very much hated. Either that or my review for The Shining is, they're both up there as well. So, but yeah, sometimes I hit record and I just immediately calm down, and I'm not quite capable of doing a massive rant. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. That's pretty much my thoughts on the episode. I didn't like the start, I didn't like the ending. I thought the character choice for chopping off Virginia's hand was interesting. Still really annoyed at the character screen time choices and all that, but we'll see how it potentially comes together, or what way it comes together by the end of next week's mid-season finale. So we'll see. But thank you all very much for listening. You can find everything that we do on entertainmenttalk.org, TV, video games, films, and Manchester United podcasts as well. If you like what you've heard, I guess, if you like what you've possibly heard today, and you want to hear more, you want to support more of what Entertainment Talk's doing, that would be brilliant. There's lots of different ways that you can get involved. Patreon is one of them. You can check out the $1 and $3 level tiers for instant ad-free podcast and review options. Amazon affiliate link, that's where that's where you can shop on there, on Amazon obviously. We can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you extra podcast services. If you search for Entertainment Talk on your favorite podcast platform, please get subscribed to us and rate review us as well. That would be really, really helpful. If we're not on your favorite podcast platform, which I think we're on most of them these days, please let us know if you cannot find us on there. David is of course running Geektown, geektown.co.uk and Geektown Radio for your up-to-date reliable TV and film news. Excuse me, so if you want your latest Walking Dead news or anything related to TV and film news, David's got you covered on geektown.co.uk. And if you search for Geektown on podcast services, you can get Geektown Radio episodes on Tuesdays. There should be a new one tomorrow, so look out for that. Bex is streaming daily at the moment over on Twitch. If you search for Trista Bytes, Trista Bytes, go and follow her over there. The Scream, is it Scream Saturdays? Something like that for Saturdays, the horror thing that she does on Saturdays, and a whole bunch of cool stuff throughout the week over there. I'm streaming as well on Twitch fairly regularly lately, actually, so you can check me out over there, or check out Entertainment Talk over there. If you search for eTalk UK on Twitch, you should be able to find us on there. Streaming some Pez, stream some Batman, stream some Walking Dead, trying to do lots of different stuff, so check us out over there as well. Word of mouth, if you want to tell people that you know about Entertainment Talk, Trista Bytes and Geektown, that would be brilliant. Social media, you can do the same thing over there, so through Facebook and Twitter, through social media, tell people that you know about everything. Facebook groups, you can also of course use them as well if you can, and also look out for Let's Play Sunday episodes as well. I'm quite surprised at myself. I thought I'd be a lot more angry. I don't know, anyway. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you for the mid-season finale next week. It's crept up, but we'll see you next week for that, or next time. Goodbye.